We're on.
Okay, excellent. Chris Bruns here. So I'd like to call this meeting to order and welcome everyone to the Seven Hills Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for September 16th, 2020. Terry, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Borowitz? Mr. Bruns?
Here.
Mr. Aiken?
Here.
Mr. Madej?
Here.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman,
Yes, Rick.
I move that we excuse Mr. Borowitz from today's meeting.
Okay, yeah, motion's been made to excuse Mr. Barwitz from the meeting. A second, please.
A second.
Okay, good. Terry, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Mr. Bruns?
Yes.
Mr. Madej?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Barwitz has been excused from tonight's meeting. Okay, Chris Bruns speaking. I'd like to move on and do some introductions. Recognize some of the following individuals. On the phone, we do have Christine Tobin, who is our legal counsel in an advisory position to the board. We also have Building Commissioner Jeff Grassi here also as an advisor to this board. And then finally, we've got Councilman Tom Stipke. He was our liaison to City Council. Okay, so this Board of Appeals is comprised of volunteer members with diverse professional backgrounds representing all four wards of Seven Hills, and we're all residents of Seven Hills. All of our meetings are public, and audio from the meeting is recorded from the microphones, obviously from our GoToMeeting format here tonight. For permanent record, we consider all information and testimony presented during the meeting to create a harmony with the original purpose and intent of the zoning code, and the variance requests brought before us so that public health, safety, morals, and general welfare may be secured and substantial justice done to all parties involved. Anything that is voted on tonight is not formally approved until it passes through City Council for final approval. City Council holds the power to approve, amend, modify, or reverse any of the decisions of this board. So any of the applicants here tonight, if the board does vote to grant your variance request, again, you'll have to wait until that council meeting for them to officially vote and approve on that variance request. I believe our next council meeting is scheduled for September 29th. Maybe either Terry or Councilman Sissy, can you confirm that's accurate?
On my schedule, it is September 29th.
Okay, great. Yeah, so please, applicants, please call City Hall, obviously before that meeting, to request if they can tell you if your variance request is on that board meeting agenda, or sorry, on that council meeting agenda. But yeah, I believe September 29th is the next date. So yeah, please know. You cannot proceed with your project, obviously, until council approves your variance request. Also, applicants have 1 year from the date that the variance is approved by City Council to obtain a building permit. After that year, the variance is void, and you'll need to start the process over again. Okay. So, gentlemen of the board, have you read the meeting minutes of Wednesday, August 12th? And if so, are there any corrections? And if no corrections, may I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
This is Rick Aiken, I second.
Okay, motion's been made to approve the minutes from August 12th, 2020. Terry, please call the roll.
Mr. Madej?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Mr. Bruns?
Yes. Okay, Chris Bruns speaking again. Yes, those minutes have been approved. Okay, so we will move on to the new business portion of the meeting tonight. So for all the individuals that have called in, before every I guess if you are not the applicant for the variance request, there'll be a public forum after every variance is heard for individuals to call in. So now I guess for all of the individuals that have joined on a GoToMeeting right now, which are likely just the applicants, I would like to swear you in at this point, maybe for efficiency, and then obviously we can have a separate swearing in portion during the public comment section of each variance request. Okay, so as a matter of protocol, anyone who intends to make a statement concerning these variances tonight must swear and affirm that they are making truthful statements. So if all members of the audience or on the phone or on the GoToMeeting platform right now who do intend to speak, I'd say definitely all the applicants, you should do this. Ask that you please raise your right hand and affirm the following statement that I'm about to read. So yeah, please raise your right hand and affirm, do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony that you give in the matter being heard before this zoning board of appeals will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you may answer to God? If so, then please answer yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. You may lower your right hands. Okay, so we have 5 variances on our schedule tonight. And I'd like to begin with the variance request from a Carol Aquilino. Apologies if I mispronounced. Yep. So Carol, if you are online, I'll give you a chance to speak here just in 1 second, but I'll just read a quick introduction to the variance request, and then I'll turn it over to you to walk us through your request. So Carol has asked for a variance request to ordinance number 99704D, prohibited fences. Her variance request, the proposed fencing has openings that are 2 inches by 4 inches and exceed the 3-inch minimum allowed by the ordinance. The fencing to be used as a dog kennel. Okay, so Carol, I think I'll turn it over to you. If you could please walk us through, I guess, what your variance request is and why you'd like it made tonight.
Okay.
Okay,
I'd like to make one.
Carol, can you please first start by giving us your full name and your address for record?
Yes. Carol Aquilino, 5900 Graydon Drive, Seven Hills, Ohio, 44131. Okay. I would like to state one thing, that what I am using this enclosure for is not a dog kennel or a dog run. It is specifically a potty area for protection for myself and my dog as they just go outside and come in. No dogs are out there. There's 2 little 8-pound dogs. And at my age, and I wanted you to know the reason that is, I've had the fence there for 34 years and have never had a problem. And so that's what that's used for. It is not a kennel or kennel run or dog run and that. It's only for in and out potty run. And I'm asking for a whole size variance approval of this enclosure because it is a garden variety type fence. It is not a chain link or anything. It's a garden variety type fence. It used to be chicken wire, but it is a little stronger than chicken wire. And it is because of the chicken wire bending down and the rust on it and the tears on it, the tears from the people cutting or edging along it. It had sharp edges sticking out. It had bowed sides because there's no support. And that was very dangerous. People going by could have cut themselves or whatever. So when I went to buy the fence, there were very minimal available. I wanted to get a coated fence. They would not allow that. They said there are no coated fences. We do not know. We went to 3 different places looking for the fence. So they said this was the only one that they had. Several stores had ones like that, a little bit smaller. And so I got it, and this was just around the COVID starting time. They did not know when they'd be getting materials in, and my fence was already from the harsh winter and that torn up. So I opted to buy this fence, not really knowing about the 4 inches, so unaware. And that's why I got that. I didn't even know they would sell a fence that would be restricted. And also in the backyard are coyotes. We've had several dead animals, deer, raccoons, bones, body parts, and I am right near the woods. So for my protection and for my animals' protections, that's why I wanted this enclosure. And it's only used, like I said, very minimal, just in and out. And let's see. If there's anything else I can add here. That's good. The enclosure, like I said, is used for my protection from the coyotes as well as my 2 little dogs. And it is a much more stable construction because the other animals could have gotten over that bent up chicken wire very easily. So my options were very minimal at the time of purchase.
Okay. Yeah, this is Chris Brun speaking. Good. Anything else, Carol, would like to mention?
I have never had a problem in the neighborhood with anything. The neighbors all think that fence, 30 years, yeah, that fence looks very good. It's stable. It's not viewed, it's set back, so it's not in the big line of sight. Let's see. I think that's about it. But it's definitely not a kennel type structure. A heavy structure for a kennel. It is like a garden variety, garden fence. It was sold in those garden fence areas.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Chris Brun. Yeah. Okay. Chris Brun speaking again. Yeah. So, did you have a chance to you speak to your neighbor, especially the neighbor that'll share that you share a property line with on that side of the house? And did they have any insight, or did they have any opinions on the fence?
Not that I know of, no insight, because last year they had vehicles going through to their backyard, and every day there was either bucket trucks for cutting trees, or there was trucks that were for tree cutting. There was cars. In fact, it was almost like a dedicated street. Every day you had tire marks going back to their backyard. And never had an issue with that or anything. They got by, and it was no problem. I mean, they had a lot of stuff going on back there. And a lot of vehicles.
Mr. Hagan.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rick.
I have this is more for our building commissioner. What's the rationale behind the whole size in fencing?
Okay, gentlemen. Yeah. So, I just want to give you a background. The fence, the layout, the installation of this fence, everything is correct. The quality of the fence is actually a good coated quality fence. The only issue is how our code language reads. It reads with an opening larger than 3 inches, and they're not specific on 3 by 3. They're just saying 3 inches. Her fence was the 2 by 4 is a rectangle, and
Very narrow.
I had a hard time. This is one of those where I really had a hard time with bringing this in because the installation was correct. She complied with everything else. So I think it needed to be a judgment on the board. So that's why that's pretty much where we're at today with this case.
This is Rick Hick again. I appreciate it. I guess I don't understand that. We're asking for a variance. I just don't know the rationale behind why there's a 3-inch size versus a 4-inch size. Is it safety? Is it, because honestly, this is the most minimal variance request I think we've ever had here. And I went out and looked at it. Carol, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me about it. I agree with everything that you just said, Building Commissioner Grassi. Quite honestly, again, unless there's a reason why 4 inches is a hazard or a safety issue, I have no problem with this whatsoever.
Mr. Aiken, yeah, there's no commentary with our ordinances, unfortunately. So what the founders, when they wrote this, you don't know what they were thinking at the time. So I have to interpret this the best I can. So that's why it is a minimal request, but to me it needs to be addressed. So in the future I can address this appropriately too.
We're getting it, and I appreciate it. I'm not blaming you at all. It's the code, and I'm just wondering if there's a rationale behind the code that I'm not aware of for that.
What I did hear, if you want to tell me,
you're worried about the whole size, because actually her whole area, her area is smaller. 2x4 is smaller than a 3x3. So in one way, she's less than the code if it was an area type of requirement. So it's nothing issue. It's just I went out there and basically the only issue is an inch. Literally, and I, so yeah, I'll leave it at that and just say I have no issue with this whatsoever.
I just one more comment because we want to hear a little folklore. I actually did hear that it was because maybe the animal's head would get caught in a larger hole size. But that's just folklore.
I do have chicken wire inside the fence that goes along the ground about a foot and a foot up. So it is adhered to the fence, all the way around the whole fence, so that anything low to the ground cannot get in or cannot get out. And that to me was a safety thing because my dogs could, or anything could get underneath it or crawl underneath it. So it is attached and adhered with those U-clamps to the ground that way. So the base of it, at least a foot high of it, has the chicken wire around it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Christine Tobin. I have a question for the building commissioner. The question is, Mr. Grassi, does 99702B need to be discussed at all? The minimum support post burial depth for a less than 5 foot fence. Do we need to address that?
I thought I did address it. I don't. When I was answering Mr. Aiken's question, Mr. Chairman, the support post, the installation of this fence is correct. It meets the requirements for that. So I didn't have an issue with that. I did look into it though. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Grassi.
Okay, great. Any other questions from any board members?
No, this is Ryan Mayday. Thanks, Carol, for bringing this to the board's attention.
Okay.
Okay, great. I think I'd like to open it up to any public comment right now. So I will. I'll read off the phone number and access code. I guess for anybody who is watching the meeting by YouTube or other means. Okay. So again, this is Chris Brunt speaking. If you'd like to make comment on this variance request, you are certainly welcome. We ask that you dial in using your phone. The phone number is 646-749-3122. Again, 646-749-3122. The access code 367-985-245. Again, access code 367-985-245. We'll wait for a minute for anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll wait for a minute for anybody to join by phone. But if anyone is joining by phone, when you do connect, please announce your presence and give us your name so we know that you have joined the call. So, pause the meeting here for 1 minute to allow anyone to call in.
No, here it is.
That's your face right there. Hold on.
Okay. We're still dialing. Well,
Okay, good one.
Okay, Chris Brunn speaking again. Has anyone joined by phone who would like to make a comment on this variance request?
no, I think it's got to be. Let me give you the number, Lori. Dan, here, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, but next time do 3-1, get me in.
No, that doesn't get you in. It's 646. Okay. Hang on. We're dialing.
Oh, okay.
646.
Well,
749.
Carol, you don't need to call in. You've already connected, of course. So.
Oh, well, I've got somebody here calling in.
Okay.
3122. And this is your access code.
Couldn't I just talk on the phone Carol's using?
Yeah. If there's someone else right beside you, Carol, you can just hand the phone over, and we can speak to that person.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. You're going to have to come over.
Yeah, I seen that fence. It's a real nice one, the old.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that fence.
ma'am, sorry. 1 second.
My name is
yeah,
my
perfect.
name is Laura Jankowski,
Okay.
and I live at 5880 Graydon Drive, Southern Hills, Ohio.
Okay.
And I've seen the fence, and it's a really nice one compared to what was up there. And she's had that fence like 30 years since I've been here. And it is just for a potty run. And we're the ones that have the dead animals in the backyard, coyotes. It's not so fun to walk back there and see deer mangled and raccoon legs just like bitten off, you know? Now, and that's not even an animal that I've had. Can you imagine if it was your pet that you would find like that? So I just wanted to say that she needs that little containment for them, because it's not, in the middle of the night, you don't know what you're going to run into.
Okay, great. Well,
You know,
Thank
she's
you.
all alone over there. I don't want to put it all over the internet, but she's all alone over there.
okay.
You know, and if you take the dogs out without that containment, you know, she's elderly, she's going to be walking in the snow, slipping, sliding, you don't know, break a hip. You know what I mean? This way she walks to the garage, she opens the door, they run out, do their business, come back in, and everybody's safe. So I just wanted to put that in. And that other fence was rusty. If there was anything wrong, that was a rusty fence. She upgraded because it was it was unsafe. She put a safe one up now. So that's really all I had to say. I just wanted to let everyone know that it's not the only one on the street saying it. It's really the truth.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. I'll hand you back to Carol.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris Brunn speaking again. Any further members from the audience call in who'd like to speak on this variance request? Okay, great. I'd like to move on and just give some of our thoughts, read through some factors that we do take into consideration when granting these, or when voting on these variance requests. Yeah.
Can I
Yeah,
just
go
ask one question? It just came into my mind.
Sorry.
You mentioned earlier that this has to be reviewed this will have to be reviewed every year.
Okay. Sorry, is this Carol speaking again?
This is Carol. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Carol. Ask your question, please.
Will this have to be reviewed every year?
No, Carol. Yeah, Chris Brunn speaking. This is obviously a single variance request that would be approved by the board and council, and then you can build the fence, and then it's permanent. Yeah, so it does not be revisited, but you do within 1 year of the variance being granted, you do need to complete the project. Sounds like maybe it's already been completed, or it's very much in progress from what I understand. But yeah, you just need to finish within 1 year of the variance being granted.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, Chris Brunn speaking again. So some factors that the board will take into consideration, and I'll invite my fellow board members to please join in as I speak my thoughts on some of these. So whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be beneficial use of the property without the variance. I think there's reasonable return as it currently is, but certainly, as the applicant has stated very clearly, her safety and quality of life and pet safety would greatly be enhanced by the variance. So I think we're definitely enhancing certainly at least the usability of the property with the applicants with what the applicant needs. If the variance is substantial, large extent of size, area, or distance, I don't think this is substantial at all. We did talk about 4 inches versus 3 inches. I don't have a concern at all. I think certainly the style of the fence is very much in spirit with what the code requires. So yeah, I don't have a concern with size at all. Whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or adjoining properties would suffer detriment as a result of the variance. I don't see an issue with that either. I think this is probably an upgrade, as the applicant stated, and one of the other probably participants stated this is an upgrade from the rusty fence that was there previously. So I think it is. I don't have any concerns about detriment. I'm not aware of any other concerns raised by any other neighbors. So yeah, no one else has obviously called in to raise concerns. So I don't have a concern with any detriment to the areas or surrounding properties. If the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, I don't have a concern with that at all. Not that large of a fence, and all other factors are within code, so no concerns there. Was the property purchased with knowledge of the zoning restriction? I'm uncertain, but I don't think that's really relevant in this case.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
This is Rick again. Just so those last 2 points. One, with services, that fence is so small. I mean, it's meant for very cute little dogs, but it could easily be traversed if needed by any emergency personnel. And with regards to her knowledge of it, I'm on the zoning board. I didn't realize we had a 3-inch zoning code in Seven Hills for a fence. And also, I want to point out, almost every applicant I've talked to, and also my neighbor's home project, she's correct that materials are in low supply everywhere you go. So I completely understand that, and she got what she could, and wasn't aware of the size requirement. So it wasn't intentional whatsoever, in my opinion.
Yep, agreed. Thanks, Rick. All right, Chris Brunt speaking again. Whether the predicament feasibly may be resolved through some method other than a variance. Rick just stated, and I can concur that, there's not many other supplies out there. The applicant tried to get something within compliance and was not available. So, I think the applicant did the best they could in this case. Whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. Yes, I think we are upholding the spirit and intent behind the variance, the code in this case. I don't have a concern about safety. I think we will be granting due justice to the applicant. So just my thoughts. Any other thoughts from board members and any of those factors?
Mr. Chairman, this is Ryan Midday. My thoughts are, I think it's an upgrade. The owner acted responsibly and just going through the process. So I agree with Board Member Rick Aiken and his comments about I don't have any concerns with this issue.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I think, again, Chris Brunt speaking. I think we can move on to making a motion. So I do have a motion on this variance request.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Rick.
This is Rick Aiken. I move that the board vote whether or not to grant the applicant and property owner Carol Aquilino 5900 Graydon Drive a variance to ordinance number 997.04D to allow for the installation of a 4-foot high fence by 11 foot wide with a 2 by 4 inch openings at the opening be installed at the side of the home as depicted on the submitted drawings.
Okay, and a second?
It's Ryan Midday. I second the motion.
Okay, thank you. Chris Brunt speaking. Yes. A vote shall be taken on the following. Should the applicant, Carol Aquilino, property owner at 5900 Graydon Drive, be granted a variance to ordinance number 997.04D to allow the installation of a 4-foot high fence by 11 feet wide with 2-inch by 4-inch openings to be installed at the side of the home as depicted on the submitted drawing. A yes vote is to grant the variance, and a no is to deny the variance. Terry, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Mr. Madey?
Yes.
Mr. Bruns?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes. So the board has voted to grant the variance. So again, this will go on to City Council for final approval. But thank you. Okay. Carol, you're welcome to stay on if you like. If you'd like to hear the other variance requests, or you're welcome to obviously hang out. So.
Once this is approved, one question, this is Carol.
Mm-hmm.
Do I then get a permit? Is that how that goes?
Yes, I believe in Building Commissioner Grassi. Please confirm. I believe you would apply for a permit. Yeah, if you haven't already.
Right.
Yes, she applied for the permit. I denied the permit because of the openings. So your decision will let me approve that permit that she actually applied for. So
Thank
that
you.
would be after council's approval.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, thank you, Carol.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. All right, Chris Brunn speaking. Yes, Chris Brunn speaking again. All right, I'd like to move on to the next variance. This is from a Jeffrey and Pamela Mangione. This
Mangione.
Yep, Mangione. Thank you. 490 Panorama Drive. I've requested a 3-foot 9-inch variance request to ordinance number 99302, Residence District side yards, to allow the construction of a 10-foot by 37-foot attached garage addition. Excuse me. To be 6 foot 3 inches from a portion of the side yard lot line. This is with a pie-shaped property. So the pie-shaped rear garage addition will be approximately 15 foot 3 inches from the side yard lot line. Okay, so Mr. and Mrs. Mangione, if you are online or on the call, if you can please give us some background on your variance request.
I sure will. Thank you, and thank you for hearing me.
Okay. And sir, do you want to give us your full name and your address, please?
Jeffrey Mangione, 490 Panorama Drive, Seven Hills, Ohio, 44131.
Okay, go right ahead, sir.
Okay. All right. I have a couple of classic cars that I basically would like to keep on my property now. In the wintertime, I've been paying to store them wherever I can find. In the sun, I like to bring them home so I can enjoy them. I still have to, I do have a regular car that I drive in the wintertime that I also keep. So it's a situation where I'm constantly renting a place to put one, and this garage would solve that problem. I intend to, obviously it'll be professionally built, professionally done, and I do have a pie-shaped lot, which was mentioned earlier, which means that I'm really only out of tolerance right at the very front of the garage for about maybe 7 feet or 8 feet, and then the rest of the garage is compliant with the code. I guarantee you it will not only enhance the value of my property, but obviously all the rest of the properties on Panorama Drive. Basically that's it. I intend to have it, it'll look as though once it's built, that it's always been part of the structure. And that was very important to me and my wife, that when this thing's come up, it does not look like an appendage, that it actually looks like it was always part of the house. I believe you all have drawings and stuff that were submitted by Platinum Garages. And that's pretty much all I have to say, is just that, again, it is out of compliance for maybe 6 to 8 feet before the pie-shaped lot compensates, and then at that point, the rest of the garage is well within the 10-foot 10-foot specification. Thank you. Hello.
Sorry about that. Yep, Chris Brunn. Yep, Chris Brunn speaking again. Have you had a chance to speak to any of your neighbors about this?
Have I? Yes, I've pretty much walked around, and they've actually come to me and said, "Hey, we got a letter. Hey, we got a letter." My immediate neighbors for Pepe, their comment was, "quote unquote, we don't care what you do. Okay, live it up." My neighbors on the opposite side said no, they didn't have a problem. The neighbors next to both of them, I don't know the gentleman as well as the rest of my neighbors. He's only been in that house for maybe a year and a half. I got no comment from him, so I don't really know. But basically, my immediate neighbors did not have a problem with it, as far as from what they told me at the time I inquired.
Okay, great. Yeah, Chris Brunn speaking again. So on the side that you share with obviously with a neighbor that will be impacted by this, I guess we'd like to be mindful about water drainage and things of that nature. So you're obviously you have a driveway currently that connects with your neighbor's driveway, and now this addition, behind that driveway. So there still would be some obviously some grass space between the end of the new addition and obviously where that neighbor's property begins?
Yes, there would be. And what's nice is I have, where the garage will be built, I already have a concrete pad there. So what I'd be taking up is just the grassy area that is between our garage and their garage. This new garage will border along the side of their property that has their garage on it. So it's not something, the point to that is that it's not something that they would be looking at if they looked out their family room window. It borders the side of their garage. And basically they used to have those torpedo-style bushes that the deer love. Okay, they just got tired of having to plant them every 4 or 5 years. So they have always had some sort of privacy growth or whatever in between our two homes anyway. So right now there's nothing because they just got tired of putting up the same thing and have the deer eat them. They were planning on putting up a fence. I believe they still are considering that. But as of right now, it's just a dirt pad. So as I mentioned earlier, this garage will border on the same side of their house that their garage is. And I did check with Mary and Elaine Repepe, and they told us, hey, we have no problem with what you build. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it certainly does. Yeah, Chris Brunn speaking again. Okay, any other questions from any of the board members?
Mr. Chairman, this is Rick Aiken. I'll concur. I went out there on Monday to take a look at the property. The applicants weren't home, but the sidewalk, I viewed it, and from what you say, everything is consistent with what I saw out there. So,
thank you.
Okay, good. And applicant, when you purchased the property, I guess were you aware of the code around garages and side yard lot lines?
No, I was not. As a matter of fact, Platinum Garages actually went to apply for a building permit because I guess the variance has a situation where you're allowed 5 foot on one side and 10 on another. Okay, we misunderstood that as the 5 foot being available on both sides. So we actually thought we were originally compliant when the drawings were done. When they went to submit the building for the building permit, that is when we found out that it's 5 or 10, but only on one side. And I guess the way our property is set to my neighbor on the other side of my house, that is where the 5 foot has been done to the property line, and the 10 foot now applies to the garage side. So that is why we are requesting a variance as well,
Okay.
if I understood correctly.
Yes. Okay, Chris Brown speaking. Yeah, thank you, applicant. Any other questions from any of the board members?
This is Councilman Tom Snitsky. Can I interject something?
Yes, please, Tom, go ahead.
Mr. Mangione,
Yes,
just
sir.
one thing that I'm looking at the print, and again, this is up to the zoning board, and from what I see, it looks really good. But you do realize that you're going to basically, by doing this, you're limiting access to the back of your property if you ever have to get back there to do anything. Did you ever consider, and again, you would need a variance for this, and you may not want to do it, but did you ever even think about a second garage in the back of your property? Or is that just not something you want to do?
The back of my property is a ravine. It's basically, what you see, did you see I don't know if you've seen my property, but if you see that I have a fence, or a guardrail, I don't know what you'd call it, that runs all along the back of my property, okay? Beyond that, okay, I had to build decks in order to turn my backyard into usable property. When you see that guardrail, that is the end of useful property on my property. The only place to really put this is this side yard. And because the lot is pie-shaped, it is close to the one side, okay? But I still have room behind it, okay, for me to put up little swimming pools for my grandkids and stuff. I still do have a pretty good sized plot of land behind it where I could put a swing set or something. But basically, my wife and I, enjoy our time on the decks that we built in the back. But for the most part, once you see that guardrail, anything beyond it is basically, although attractive, useless.
Okay, you have answered the question to my satisfaction. You look at the map and you've got all this triangle property back there, and I'm like, geez, oh man, now I understand. I didn't see the property, I'm just looking at the map. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is Rick Aiken.
Yes.
I'll concur. In fact, I was going to make a bad joke earlier that 4 of the 5 variances requests are on ravines tonight. So I was going to call it the ravine variance zoning board meeting. So, but yeah, he is correct that there is not. Yeah, it's very steep back there, and he's utilizing all the he can now. So yeah, there's just not feasible to put a garage back there.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Rick. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, yeah, Chris Brown speaking. I'd like to, open up the forum to any members of the public citizenry who would like to call in. I'll repeat the phone number again. So if anybody would like to join, you can call 646-749-3122. Again, 646-749-3122. Access code 367-985-245. Again, access code 367-985-245. And we'll pause for a minute to allow anyone to call in. And again, if you do call in, when you connect, please give us your name so we know that you connected. Okay, Chris Brown speaking again. Has anybody called in to speak on this variance request? Okay, we'll take that as a no. So we'll move on to reading of some of the factors for this variance request. So whether the property. Go ahead.
We're taking here. Do we want to read into the record the email we received on this request? Didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, I guess for record, there was an email, but there was a retraction of that email.
This one, or I thought that was for the last one?
Was there an email? Apologies if I missed it.
Yes, there was. It's
Okay.
the Constantino family at 465 Panorama Drive.
Okay, great.
They requested a copy of the material,
Okay, great.
and then there was one other email at 490 from Marion Lane Rapepi stating that they want to convey that as owners of the property adjacent to 490 Panorama Drive, our house is at 500. We do not object to the variance requested by Jeff and Pam Mangione. If you have any questions or anything we should know, please call us, and then they gave the phone number.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, yeah, so back to some of the factors. Whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return, or whether they can be beneficial use of the property without the variance. It's certainly a fine property now, but the applicant did state that he would get some more personal enjoyment, obviously having space for his vehicles to be within a garage. So I think the property would both return and utilization would be greatly enhanced by this having this garage. So I think we certainly enhance the return. If the variance is substantial, a large extent of size, area, or distance, I don't think it's particularly substantial here. Certainly in regards to the pie-shaped property, the current driveway, some of the other structural factors, topographical factors. Yeah, I don't really have a concern about the size or distance in this case. Whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or adjoining properties suffer detriment. No, I don't. I think the character would not be impacted negatively, as the applicant stated, and as one of the neighbors had commented that they don't have an issue with it. So they have no concern. So yeah, I think it would actually enhance the appeal and character of that cul-de-sac area. If the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, safety forces, water, sewer, or garbage collection, I don't think they'll be impacted in a large degree. I think there still will be ways to get back into the rear of that property. Certainly in an emergency situation, one would have to likely drive on the neighbor's property, but I think access will still be possible if access was really truly needed. So I don't really have a concern, and really water and sewer and garbage I don't think are impacted at all with that. Was the property purchased with knowledge of the zoning restriction? The applicant stated they were not aware, and that's certainly quite typical. This kind of case. Where the predicament feasibly may be resolved through some method other than a variance. I don't see any other solutions. Councilman Siski offered queried about building in the back of the property, and obviously due to the topographical nature, that's not really possible. So I don't really see any other way that the applicant can certainly enlarge in the garage enough to get more vehicles without encroaching on the property, on the neighbor's property line. So I don't see any other solutions here to obviously achieve the aim that the applicant is seeking. And then finally, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and justice done. I still think we are upholding the spirit behind the ordinance. There's still certainly some distance, and obviously that the distance from the garage to the property line that becomes compliant certainly as you go back, and obviously due to the pie-shaped nature of the property, that's the circumstance that is before us here. And yeah, I don't have any concerns with the spirit. I think the spirit is being upheld in this case. Any other thoughts, council members?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Rick Aiken.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, as an owner of a pie-shaped lot on the outside of a circle, it's really difficult to do anything side to side without needing a zoning variance request. And again, I've said this in previous meetings. That's why we're here, is to consider these requests that are not for typical lots. You know, either long, big lots or lots like mine and Mr. Mangioni's, where you have a small space up front and a huge backyard, and in both of our cases woods. But yeah, so this is kind of what the zoning board of appeals was designed for lots like this. That in a typical lot, this would be an issue because you have plenty of clearance, but because of it's so cramped up front, when they originally constructed it, they had to make some, some sacrifices one way or the other. So, like I said, I was at the property. I can confirm what Mr. Mangione says. Without the neighbors having any issues with it, I don't see any issues with it on my end. So, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Brian, any thoughts? Chris Brunt speaking again. Yeah, Ryan, and any kind of parting thoughts on this request?
I'm sorry?
Ryan Midday, any other kind of final thoughts on this request? Okay. Yeah, Chris Brunt speaking again. Good. I think we can move on to have a motion. Okay. So,
Mr. Chairman?
yeah. Go ahead, Rick.
I move that the board vote whether or not to grant the applicant and property owner Jeffrey and Pamela Mangione 490 Panorama Drive a 3-foot 9-inch variance to ordinance number 993.02A Residence District Side Yard to allow the construction of a 10 by 37 foot attached garage addition to be 6 feet 3 inches from a portion of the side yard lot line as shown on the drawing submitted by the with the application.
Okay. And a second, please.
Ryan, did I second the motion?
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Ryan. Okay. So a vote shall be taken on the following: should the applicants Jeffrey and Pamela Mangione, property owners of 490 Panorama Drive, be granted a variance to ordinance number 96302A to allow the construction of a 10-foot by 37-foot attached garage addition to be 6 foot 3 inches from a portion of the side yard lot line as described on the application submitted. A yes vote is to grant the variance, and a no is to deny the variance. Okay. Yes, Mary, please call the roll.
Mr. Bruns?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken? Mr. Aiken?
Oh, yes.
Mr. Bidet?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And the variance is therefore granted by the board, and we'll now go on to City Council for final approval. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you all so much.
Okay. Yep. You are welcome to stay on the call if you like, or obviously you can hang up. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Okay. Thank you. All right. I'd like to move on to the next variance request from Mario Sutera and Emily Miller of 6800 Drexel Drive. They have requested a variance request to ordinance number 99701, permit required boundary survey, requiring a boundary survey to have been performed in the last 10 years when installing a fence. And secondarily, a variance request to ordinance number 99703, obstruction to view, to allow the replacement of the existing fence to be forward of the rear yard building line. Okay, I'd like to turn it over to the applicant, if they're on the call, to give us an overview on your variance request, please.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so, I just...
Yes, sir. You can give us your name and your address, please.
Hi, my name is Mario Sutera, 6800 Drexel Drive. And that's my wife, Emily Millar. So, yeah, we're here to present that, we have a fence and no real change to the property. The fence was existing and there was a storm, there was some damage done. and in that perfect storm, I happened to be on vacation and had the time to do it myself. So, no, I didn't know about the permit or the variances or any of these other code violations that there could be. I just went and fixed it, and I'm trying to make some improvements to the property and open up my view to the ravine side. As I detailed in my notes, there's some very unique grading and landscaping issues, right? So I'm right the very last property next to the park, and then I neighbor the ravine, and my property drops off. But from where my property intersects with the public property in the back to where it drops off in the ravine, there's quite a steep decline and then drop off into that ravine. So again, like I stated in my report, that there is a safety/privacy issue, and the fence has to be there. And again, the fence has already been there for a very long time, especially with the way that the property was built. The landscaping alone with the retaining wall and the cross members that are holding it up, like I said, it's been like that forever. I've talked with my neighbors. No one sees it. No one that I've talked to yet has an issue with it. And they've just always known that to always be there. In fact, I've had some people say, it's about time someone fixed that fence. So with that being said, I don't want to take up everyone's time. I'll hand off from here.
Okay, Chris Bruns speaking. Okay, so one question about, I guess, the distance. For the variance request, to extend forward to the rear building line, I don't think we saw how far you'd like to come forward, sir. So I guess how many feet would you like to come forward of the rear building line?
I don't understand the question. So the rear property line, describe to me the very back of the house or the side that's on the ravine?
That'd be the back of your house.
So the fence that was existing, I came forward a foot and the only reason why I didn't take the fence down while I was putting up the other fence was because the amount of time it took me to do it by myself. Now, I didn't want there to be an opening, and like I said, it was a privacy / there's a very large retaining wall, and there's a privacy issue. So I didn't want, so the idea was, why fix what's completely, all that wood is fully rotted out. There's no fixing it. So I had to make the executive decision, and the only reason why I moved forward was for that privacy and safety, and the fact that when you get to the very corner of that property where you meet the ravine, I'm losing land, right? So when I go and fix that fence at that very corner, I'm going to have to move forward so I have enough land to dig a hole, right? So I had to make executive decisions on whether or not I should keep it where it's at or move it forward a little bit. For me, it was just easier to move forward so I could have land to dig into.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Rick.
This is Rick Aiken. Yeah, I think and Mario, Emily, welcome to the neighborhood. He lives on my street, and this is a bad way to meet, but I had a nice visit with Mario earlier this week. I think what Chris is talking about is not the back by the park, but the side by the ravine. How far forward are you going to come? And I didn't measure it when I was out there, but so the area where your concrete pad is kind of slipping down. That was been there for a while. How far forward?
That's why it gets so confusing when we talk about rear property line. So again, yeah, in that case, it's existing. I didn't change anything there. I just took the fence down, and I'm putting up a split rail in its place.
So the fence posts on that side were not moved.
Yes.
Just the boards were taken off, but the fence posts were not moved on that ravine side.
And just to be clear that they're not planning on closing off their backyard. They're coming forward in order to fence off the ravine. They're not going to bring it over to the side of the house to close it off. So it's just across the ravine side of their side yard. for protection and to keep people from going down. So, as Mario was saying, I didn't think about to measure it either, but it's hard to measure how far forward it is because it's probably 40 feet to the left of their side property or the other side of their house. So, if we state something that it's in the same footprint as the existing or the previous fence or something like that, no further than the previous fence or something like that, I'd be fine with that. But yeah, so I'll stop there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. Christine Tobin or Building Commissioner Grassi, any thoughts on how that should be worded?
Mr. Chairman, this is Christine Tobin. What we're talking about in that ordinance is forward of the rear building line. So I think we're talking about forward of the house here. So we weren't clear on the drawing. It looks like it extends forward of the rear of the home, but do we have an answer for that?
That's why they're here for that request, because it is going to extend past the rear building line of that house.
Right.
That's Mr. Grassi, and this is Christine Tobin again. And so the question is, in terms of a variance would be required, and we need to indicate how far forward of the rear of the home the fence would extend.
Yeah, it's 20 feet.
20 feet?
20 feet. Yeah, from that point of the property line, it's about 20 feet. That's it.
Well, so it's from the rear of your home, I guess, from the back wall of the home. How far forward?
Okay, I can measure and then have it updated, but if you were to look at the dimensions of the home, it's 60 feet then, because whatever this is, probably 30 feet the house plus the 20 feet from that point. I would like to have a chance to just measure it for you, but if I were to guess, it's about 50 feet, 50, 60.
So does it extend, this is Christine Tobin again, Mr. Sotero, does this fence along the side that comes forward of the porch showing on your drawing, it comes towards the street beyond your porch in the back, correct?
Again, the fence was already there. I just took the fence down to put up a split rail, and that the fence needs to be there. And I guess the question is, why is the fence there, right? It's for safety. There's a ravine.
Excuse me, Mr. Sotero, the question is, how far, I understand you had an existing fence, but how far forward of the rear of the home did it or does it extend?
I would have to measure. I'm going to give you a guess, though, of 50, 60 feet.
So is your porch, how deep is your porch at the rear of your home? How far does it extend out from your home, your porch?
10 feet.
10 feet, okay. So this drawing makes it look, and I'm referring to one of the submissions, it's one of the mortgage locator surveys. It's from McSteen that you provided, and it shows your home, and it shows the, fence, and it shows it coming forward on the one side, forward of the porch. But if the porch is only 10 feet deep, the fence can't be extending 50 feet from the porch. You see what I'm saying? So it looks like it might be half of the porch length, which is 5 feet, or So basically,
Chairman,
what we're asking. Go ahead, Mr. Grassi.
This is Commissioner Grassi. Yeah, I just did a quick measurement on this. If you look at it, it's in that pie-shaped angle again. So we're talking about an angle, and it appears, Mr. Sotero, it goes all the way to the property line. The split rail on an angle up there.
We're talking about on the edge of the ravine, right?
Yeah, because I'm doing a quick measurement. It looks like it's about 40 feet from the rear of the home to the property line, which it appears where the old fence used to go.
Yeah, I'd agree.
The side property line. before it drops off there, right?
Yeah, just to be clear that we own, there's about, where the porch is to the ravine is about, it depends on where you're at from the house, but if you're looking at the very corner of where that deck is, it's, probably 15 feet, then it drops off into the ravine. And then, I own part of that ravine and off to the other side of it, if that makes sense.
Mr. Chairman, may I comment? This is Christine Tobin again.
Yes, please, go ahead, Chris.
Our code 99701, which talks about a permit for a fence, requires that the applicant submit a scale drawing showing the location, the height, the type, et cetera, et cetera. All we're asking is to identify, since the building commissioner noted that a variance is required to extend forward of the rear building line, meaning the rear of the home, in order to grant a variance or to approve one or to deny one, the board should know how far forward it's coming. So I don't know if it's a matter of if the applicant is at home now, maybe the applicant could literally go outside and just so he doesn't have to go on another agenda and measure that where his existing fence comes on the northern side, comes forward towards the front of the home. Does that make sense, or are we thinking something else is needed here?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Grassi again. Thank you, Christine. That's why there's a need for the mortgage survey. I believe there was an issue with they didn't want to get the boundary survey because the boundary survey would give us more definition. There's a lot of variables with the property. We have a utility easement, you have the retaining wall, and you have the city property behind it. So there's a lot of variables. You have a driveway that encroaches on, from the neighbors. So there's a lot of variables with the property. So that was the one criteria that was missing. And I believe that Mr. Sotero will be able to explain why he wasn't able to acquire a boundary survey as opposed to mortgage surveys, as is required by our ordinance.
Yeah, and I do apologize. Like I said, now I got a quote for the survey, and there's somewhere in the range of $1,800 to $2,200 for a survey. I can't afford it. It's just bottom line. I just was trying to fix what was there, trying to improve my property, and trying to improve the neighborhood, right? So I just moved in. There's a lot of money down, a lot of money going into this house, a lot of money flying out the door. It only cost me $1,000 to fix what was out there, and to pay that amount of money for something that's already been there and part of the neighborhood for a very long time, it's like, it's already existing. I'm not trying to change what was there. I just fixed it. That's all.
Chris Brooks speaking again. Just so we're clear, just so we know, I think we may be able to estimate here based on what was submitted. So that there's also a kind of a drawing of your property by Russell Real Estate Services. It's right behind that locator, the one that we were just talking about. And I am seeing this kind of a really dark line, simply going north, and then one going from the back of the property all the way to the side. Is the fence going basically all the way to the property line on, I guess, the northern side?
Yeah, I don't have the drawing in front of me, but yeah, so in the where the deck is, there's a deck in the back of the house.
Right.
So, there's a fence that cuts me off from the park, and then it wraps all the way around and connects to my neighbor's property.
Okay. Yeah. So now I'm kind of seeing where you're getting approximately that 50 feet. If the side of your house, if the side dimension of your property of your house is 37.8 feet, plus another 15 or so feet would be an estimate to get to that property line.
Minus the porch.
I did draw it in there, but when it came out through the copier, I probably just blacked it out.
Okay. Question for the board for Christine Tobin. I mean, could we estimate and offer a dimension like that? Would that be satisfactory?
This is Christine Tobin, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, but I'm not hearing how far forward, like we did with the other variants, the first one we had this evening, or not the first one. The variance, when we have a side door, a door on the side, we can come forward past it, but not more than 5 feet, right? We can come forward of the rear of the home. Can you estimate how far forward of the rear of the home this is? And again, my question is, why are we estimating when we have an ordinance requiring the applicant for a permit to show on a drawing? Not even talking about the boundary survey, just talking about 99701, a scale drawing. Just show, draw it up yourself, show the distance. So
there's a scale drawing in there, no?
Where?
Yeah, there's a drawing from Russell Real Estate Services, just your kind of an overhead view of your whole property as of February 23rd, 2020 is the date on that.
I'm trying to do as much as you told me. I'm trying to follow the letter to niche this.
I'm going to look for his, this is Building Commissioner Grassley. I'm going to go look for his original submittal to see if I can find the actual drawing that was submitted. It's not attached to this packet is what we're getting at. So let me take a look and I'll be back.
Okay.
Yeah, and so again, we have to remember that the property is kind of on an angle in comparison to the fence. So from where the deck is, again, 15 feet. From where the other side of the property is, the other corner of the home, it's about 20 to 30 feet away from the house because it goes on an angle.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Rick.
Rick Aiken. I would go 60 feet. I mean, based on the scale drawing, I also, I've been at the property. It doesn't go forward as forward. If the front of his house is his garage, which is the easternmost portion of his house, it goes right almost to that, if not below that. Based on the scale drawing he submitted, it's right at, I have 58 feet, but if you want to be, give some room for wiggle, if we just want to do the 60 feet, I'd be fine with that. So, based on me being out there, that is close. Without me taking a tape measure, that's as good as I'm going to get. So.
Yeah, I would agree that I think estimating, although not ideal, estimating is I think a reasonable solution right now.
And Mr. Chairman, this is Rick Aiken again. The other issue with this, again, it's a pie-shaped lot that has a circumference frontage that's hard to judge, in the back as well. So it's not as, my opinion is, and also if we add in the same footprint as the old fence between the two, I don't think there's any question of what he's doing and what the variance is for.
Okay, well, yeah, while we're waiting for Building Commissioner Grassley, I think I'd like to read an email that was submitted. Give me 1 second to email. And actually, Terry, do you have that email handy?
It's not an email, it's a letter. It's a letter to you and the zoning board.
Okay.
And it says, Dear Sir, as referenced in your letter attached, and as owner of our property within 500 feet, they reside at 6811 Drexel, of the aforementioned property above, 6800 Drexel, we do not consider that the proposed fence replacement to be an obstruction to view. This is especially pertinent since there was a pre-existing fence in the rear and the side of the building for the past 20 years or so. Sincerely, Mr. and Mrs. Phillips, 6811 Drexel Drive.
Okay, thank you, Terry.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Rick, go ahead.
This is Rick. I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but since we have a kind of a law on it, do you want to open it up for comment? I see Mr. Crossy's back. Never mind.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to locate the actual original submittal in the office. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess back to Christine Tobin, back to the matter of estimating, would you support that? I mean, certainly, we know we do have a lack of a submitted drawing, or at least in that format.
Mr. Chairman, this is Christine Tobin, and let me, in answering, I need to ask the building commissioner a question that he can weigh in on it.
Okay.
Mr. Grassi, if you take a look at 99703, the first sentence, no fence shall be constructed or maintained between the rear yard building line and the street line. Where is the rear yard building line in this case? Is it the property line in the back, or is it the rear of the building?
Jeff, we can't hear you. Jeff, you're on mute.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah, Christine. So it would be the rear of the building, the structure, not the rear of the porch, but the actual building structure. And then you could draw an imaginary line from there to the side property line, and that would be your side yard, the interior side yard.
Okay, so when we say the fence in 99703A cannot exist between the rear yard building line and the street line, that's the distance that we're talking about with regard to the variance. How far is this fence extending forward of the building and the street line, correct?
That's correct, Christine. And on his application, the ravine side, it says here, ravine side, 3-tier split rail fence, 3 feet tall, and it spans 70 feet. So, I'm looking at that. There's about 99. I'm doing an estimate here. It's about 99, about 95, 99 feet to the from the rear property line to that side property line, and minus the 70 feet. So that would give us an estimate, but it's going to be 70 feet from the rear property line. So if it wanted to be worded that way, I don't know how you get creative with that. But,
Christine Tobin again. Mr. Grassi, can you tell from those calculations you just recited how far forward it extends forward of the home, of the rear line of the home?
Can you guys
I'm going to look. I'm not a registered surveyor, so I'm not comfortable with this. But I'll give you an estimate here real quick.
Okay. Well, I guess I appreciate it, but my comment here is again when the board's determining a variance and it calls for extending something forward so many feet that's not permitted. I think it should be in the record what the request is or how far forward it is or with reference to something. And if it's an existing fence, if that fence still exists or those posts still exist or something can be identified, that might work with some language. But from the photographs, I also had a question. I mean, it appears that the replacement fence or the repaired fence that you're putting in is actually not in the same exact location as the prior existing fence. Is that the case? Or is that only true in some areas of the fence?
It's only true in some areas of the fence.
And, okay, so in some areas, in some areas, we're actually putting it in a different location on the land, so it's a different distance from the side yards and a different distance from the homes and everything in certain places of the fence, and I does not appear to have sufficient or required information, but that's my observation.
And I do apologize for that, and I want to just try and clear it up. Can you guys see this picture?
Yes.
Great. So if you're looking at this picture, this, I'm actually going to draw this out real quick. So it can...
Excuse me, can you identify, like, picture by slide number or some other ID?
Well, Mr. Chairman, Ryan Mayday, would this be Exhibit A? The photo or the drawing that he's presenting to us, just for the record.
It's a topography, the original plot, copy of the original plat when it was built.
And, yeah, this is Christine Tobin, Mr. Madej. That's correct. We should identify it then as an exhibit so it can be referenced in the record.
Okay. Yeah, this is Exhibit A. Yeah.
Christine, this is Councilman Tom Snitsky. I got a question for you.
Yes.
Can we do this as a contingency, just like we do with the Planning Commission? Would that make it easier for everybody if we want an exact estimate or exact number as to how far it extends from the back building line? I mean, can we do it as a contingency? Would that help expedite the thing or not?
Mr. Snitsky, Christine Tobin again. It would seem to me that it is different than Planning Commission because here, when the board is weighing the factors and the evidence and making its determination, they should be making it on something in evidence. So
okay.
It wouldn't.
Just thought I would ask.
No, good question.
Okay, applicant. Yeah, back to you. If you wanted to continue with your drawing.
So, just you know, it doesn't go to the street. There's no one adjacent to. There's no one on that side of the property. Again, the fence is there for protection, you know,
right?
And it already exists. So, again, I don't know if this helps alleviate some of that. You know, where is the fence in conjunction with the property? You know, so everything over in here in this space here, obviously, is the ravine, right? It drop off 30 or 40 feet into that ravine.
Right.
Right. Mr. Grassi, will you approve of this drawing?
Excuse me, and I apologize for interrupting, but I'm looking at my packet and I don't know what picture he's looking at. So can you explain what it is, please?
So again, this is just, this was the, I'm struggling. I really like the Seven Hills Board, the commission to just look at the paperwork that I've submitted. And
I have it in front of me.
I don't think we have that picture that you're showing. I don't think we've got several other. I don't think we have that one exactly.
Here,
no.
It's the original plan. It was part of the
Is this
part of? That's another drawing. Yeah, I shouldn't even shared it. I apologize. I think we should go back.
Mr. Chairman, this is Ryan Mayday.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, as the board, we need exact figures in order to vote on anything. On the other hand, we have a resident who's just trying to fix his fence, and now he's in the middle of this, a long discussion about maps and other things, and I sympathize with them about it. Again, but as a board, we just need exact figures. I'm wondering, Commissioner, would you be able to discern that? Maybe we have to table this, but in order for us to have the exact figures, and again, not to drag them through any more of this, but that's what we do.
I can give you
the evidence is what we.
Thank you, Commissioner Grassi. Yeah, I would strongly suggest tabling it until you get accurate numbers on that variance request for the side yard fencing. But I still think the mortgage survey needs to be addressed tonight. If you want to table both, though, you can table both of them. But I think that needs to be addressed too, because that's also part of this variance request.
This is Ryan Midday. Just to clarify, I believe the applicant stated that it would cost between $1,800 and $2,200. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I've gotten several. I've talked to 3, maybe 4 different surveyors. They're all in the range of the average is around $2,000. It's just not in the
Wow. Yeah.
Building Commissioner Grassi again. My concern is because of as I explained before, there's a lot of variables on that property with the retaining wall, the encroachments of fences and walls back there to begin with, the utility easement. He does have a utility easement waiver signed. I do have in possession of that. That's in the packet. But like I said, there's a lot of variables, and this is kind of that's why we would require that boundary survey, because they actually identify these markers, and we'd be able to know clearly that this is being installed correctly.
Mr. Grassi?
Yes.
There have been several projects at Calvin Park over the last couple of years, mainly the fences and the drainage. Were there any surveys taken by Seven Hills to conduct that work?
After the meeting, but,
I'd have to look into that. That's a good question.
Well, the reason I asked is we're asking the homeowner to go through these steps of doing a survey, and there's been several projects that have been done, and next to him that I would think they're putting in fences or doing drainage would require a survey that would identify the markers, those issues, at least on the Seven Hills portion of this property. So I'm just wondering if that was done, or Seven Hills went ahead without it and didn't need to, maybe, without getting the survey work done.
Mr. Akins, yeah, I believe that would be another avenue, and that would be another reason to table this variance request until they could gather that information, see if it's available, see if it's out there. That would help out with the identifying that, like you said, because there was a survey already done on that for that back lot line, but it's still a requirement of the permit to have that boundary survey.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is Rick Aiken again. I guess my frustration tonight, and I don't think I've ever been this frustrated with a application and a discussion, is when was this application submitted?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It was submitted. It's dated August 27th, signed by Mrs. Satera.
Okay, so
and that was to the building.
3 weeks ago. And while we're preparing these motions, it should have come to someone's attention that we need a measurement, and why didn't we ask the applicant prior to him getting online tonight for that measurement if that was indeed needed for this variance request?
I'm frustrated. I feel like I've been put in a spot, I feel that I've not been treated fairly. This is not how I imagine this process to be going at all, period. I'm not happy.
Okay, well, yeah, I'll speak. Again, this is Chris Bruns. Yeah, and again, thanks for your patience, applicants. I do think tabling is the right move here. I guess I will apologize, obviously, for what happened, but yeah, we really do need that information. I'll admit it could have been made more clear to you. This is a challenging process for all of us. So obviously we all apologize for that. But I think obviously to meet the law and feel that we are really evaluating all the factors in a lawful, fair way, and obviously for the fairness of your neighbors and the whole city. I do think tabling is the right idea, and we are. I hope we are treating you fairly, sir. But I will admit that, things could be
something fair. The fence has already been there. It's existed for as long as it has, and whoever built it originally got away with it, right? And so I just bought the property, and I didn't know about any of this, right? So I don't know if I should even go forward any farther with this conversation without a lawyer. And I don't know, maybe I have to just reevaluate where I'm at in this process. And again, we'll table it, and we'll come to the table the next conversation. And I do agree with that we need to reconvene at a later date.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, applicant. I'd like to move the table.
Mr. Braun, this is Tom Sitzky. I have something I'd like to add to this, if I could, please, sir.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Mr. Satira, you indicated that you just purchased this property recently?
Yeah, in February.
Don't you have a survey from your existing purchase of the property?
That's what I gave. That's what I submitted. So
okay. All right. It isn't in my packet either. So I mean, I'm sorry for all this, but one of the things that I've seen over the years is I have seen, unfortunately, I have seen fences that were put up, and a lot of them were done a very long time ago, and they had encroached on neighbors' properties. So unfortunately, I think if you can resubmit your survey from when you purchased the property, that would eliminate you having to do another survey, I would think, and ought to also help clear up some of this. Thank you.
Mr. Snitsky, he did submit a survey, but it was a mortgage survey. It was not a boundary survey, and there's a difference between the two.
Right. Yeah, there probably weren't new pins placed, obviously as a result of the boundary survey. I've had personal experience with that. This is Chris Brunn speaking. So I think the mortgage survey is more of an estimation, but not certified.
Okay, I hear you. I know when I had a mortgage survey on my one house, hell, they found two encroachments on my property. So I'm just snowballing to try to make it easier. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other final thoughts?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Rick Aiken again. First of all, I'd like to apologize to the applicant. This is not how this should be handled. If you want to come down and talk to me, you just come on down the street. I understand your frustration. I'm frustrated, mainly because it's a safety issue, not putting this fence up, because it is a ravine. Granted, and my kids are old enough to know better, but there are a lot of young kids on the street, so it's frustrating, especially when an owner's trying to do something good for the property and for the neighborhood, and that this process just wasn't handled well. And I apologize, and I would implore everyone that's involved with this, that makes the decision, and Mr. Snitsky included, to go out and look at the property, talk to Mario, or just ask him to view the property. It makes a world of difference. I have no issues with this. I'll come up, be perfectly honest, because I was out there. I looked at him. I talked to him. I know exactly what's going on there. So that's why I'm frustrated, because this should be handled a lot better and should be a lot easier to do. And in my opinion, there should be no reason, we shouldn't have to table this if everyone had done their job correctly. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Rick. May I have a motion to table, please?
This is Ryan Midday. I make a motion to table this variance request.
Okay. In a second?
I'll second.
Great. Motion's been made to table the variance request. Terry, please call the roll.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Mr. Bruns?
Yes.
Mr. Midday?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, the request is tabled. I guess until some additional information can be submitted to the board. Thank you, applicants, and we hope to speak to you again soon.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next variance request. Okay. Request made by a Thomas Piscatello, 3220 Forest Overlook Drive, has requested the variance request to ordinance number 96302B, accessory buildings or uses, storage shed to allow the construction of a 8-foot by 12-foot non-fire rated storage shed in the side yard, more than 10 feet from the side yard lot line, and closer than 10 foot to the home. Okay, so is the applicant online tonight?
Actually, this is Sal Filippelli. I'm the person that actually lives on the property. Thomas Piscatello is my father-in-law.
Oh, okay, great. All right, sir, if you can give us your name again, please, and your address.
Sure, Sal Filippelli, and we're talking about 3220 Forest Overlook Drive.
Okay, great. If you want to give us an overview of your variance request, sir.
Sure. Forest Overlook is also one of those lots that's situated on a ravine. The drop-off, I would say, on the garage side of my house begins prior to the back line of the garage. And on the opposite side of the house, which would be the west side, it starts before the rear line of the house itself. So in other words, it does go down on both sides prior to the back line, so to speak, of the structure. Basically, the only place I could erect a shed anywhere on this property is pretty much where I put it. If I would have gone any closer to the neighbor's property, as you can see from my photos, her lot is higher than mine, and I catch all of her runoff every time it rains. It drains into my property. So moving the barn into that direction would have put the barn over water, basically. The barn is a little close to the house, but again, that's the reason why I put it where I put it. I also placed it there because it was perfectly in parallel line with her old barn, so I was trying to prevent an eyesore from the street itself. In fact, the only way you can see the barn is if you make it all the way to the end of the cul-de-sac, basically on the curb itself. So only two houses can actually see it. And when you did see it, the two barns appear to be in line with each other. I mean, really, that's about it. I mean, that's the only location I can come up with. The back drops off pretty significantly, if anyone's been up there to take a look at it. And I couldn't have gone the other direction because, again, the property drops off prior to the back of the garage, in fact.
Okay, great. Anything further, sir?
No. I mean, again, if you look at those photos there, I tried to do the best job I could with the photos themselves. You can see the neighbor's property is higher than mine. From the roof there, you can see the substantial drop-off prior to my house ending on that side there. I tried to do my best in submitting a photo to where, again, my house is the last house in like a straight run, so to speak. My neighbor to where the barn side of me is the first to turn around that cul-de-sac. So there's three houses that form that turn, and then it goes into a straight line again all the way back down the street. So I just tried to give you the best I could with the photos I submitted there. There's nothing that's stored in that barn that's hazardous or flammable by any means. I mean, we basically just use the barn itself to store, there's probably about 6 mountain bikes in there. All my kids are very heavily into sports, so footballs, basketballs, tennis, I mean, all kinds of just basically sports gear itself. Bins full of them, in fact. But again, no chemicals of any type, no machines, everything stored in the garage.
Okay, great. Yeah, and just to be clear, yeah, the shed's already there, right? So you're asking for
It's been there for, yeah, it's been there for over 5 years, yeah.
Okay. So we're just trying to get within compliance right now.
Yes. And actually, to be honest with you, the shed was always meant to just be temporary. It doesn't have a concrete foundation or anything like that. My intention was, in the event that I moved, I was going to take the shed with me, so to speak. So it was just meant to be a temporary shed. I never thought that you needed a permit for a temporary shed, or I would have started this 5 years ago.
Okay, understood. And do you still, obviously you intend it to be there as long as you own the property, or any ideas about how long you intend for it to be there?
Oh, no, for as long as I own the property, yes. Yes. I mean, I wouldn't rent it or anything with the barn on there, no. I mean, if I move, I'll take the barn with me.
Okay.
And it was a prefabricated barn as well. Smart barn is what they called it. Pressure-treated lumber, pre-stained metal roof, so it was already intact. It was literally just dropped in place.
Okay. Good. Have you spoken to any of your neighbors about this?
The only neighbors I've spoken to, I haven't spoken to the ones that can see it. Unfortunately, they're just never home. We have conflicting schedules, so when I'm home, it seems like they're not. My neighbor that's located on the barn side, so my immediate next door neighbor, has done nothing but comment on the barn itself. She recently took hers down, in fact, I would say within the past couple of months or so. And she's asked me already a couple of times where I got mine. So I mean, again, it's a very attractive barn. I was not trying to create an eyesore by any means. You know what I mean? It was basically just to clear up our loose. I didn't want to leave stuff all over the yard, if you know what I'm saying. I wanted to keep the street looking as nice as I could.
Okay. Good. Any other questions from any of the board members?
Mr. Chairman, this is Rick Egan.
Yeah, Rick, go ahead.
Thank you for coming tonight. Just wondering how is it? I was out probably within my my tape measure. I need to bring that. How close is it to your house currently?
I would say it's probably about 5 feet. Yeah, I know it's. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm estimating there, I didn't tape measure it. Again, if I would have gone any further away from the house, I would have been in water.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, this is Ryan Midday. So the issue, well, the requirement is to be fire rated, and this is not fire rated, and then there's also the issue about the distance, correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding. Yeah, Bill, Commissioner, go ahead.
Commissioner Grassi, yes, that was correct. Yes, sorry.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I'd like to open it up for any public commentary. Again, if you choose to comment on this, you can call into the meeting, area code 646-749-3122. Again, 646-749-3122. Access code 367-985-245. Access code 367-985-245. We'll just pause a minute to allow anybody to join in.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Grassi.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to clarify, there was the shed location that it's in the side yard. There's the distance from the side yard lot line, and then there's the distance to the main building that is not fire rated. So those are the three, just to clarify.
Thank you.
Okay, has anybody from the public called in to speak on this variance request? Okay, I'll take that as a no. I'd like to move on and read some of the factors that we'll consider, among others. So whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be beneficial use of the property without the variance. The shed is already here. I do think the applicant is getting enhanced use of the property with the shed in place. But yeah, I think the shed is already there, so there's still good return as it currently is. The variance is substantial, a large extent of size, area, or distance. Yeah, I mean, I would say it is substantial in positioning. I understand the applicant also has a lot of, I guess, topographical and ravine and height issues where that maybe is the only reasonable location for that shed. So I think it is a substantial variance, but I think the applicant has substantial difficulties, obviously, with how their property is laid out. Whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or adjoining properties suffer detriments Again, the shed is already there. It is a very attractive shed. I would agree with that. That it is a nice asset for the property. Again, no neighbors have complained. The applicant states that his next door neighbor, which shares a property line with where that shed is closest to, likes it as well, is interested in that shed. So I don't see any negative impact on the property with the shed where it is. The variance would adversely affect the delivery of government services, safety forces, water, sewer, or garbage collection. I don't think that's particularly relevant in this case. One can still access the rear of the property. Again, there's some challenges there with the neighbor being at a higher elevation, but I still think there is reasonable possibility of accessing the back of that property. But I'm not sure how likely one would need to access that. As well as the other side of the applicant's property does have a little bit more access route. So one in theory could go on the other side of the applicant's property, the opposite side from where the shed is. Was the property purchased with knowledge of the zoning restriction? The applicant states that they did not obviously know about the need for a permit and about the zoning restrictions. But I appreciate the applicant going through the efforts. Obviously they don't have a lot of choice here, but trying to make things right and trying to obviously apply for a variance and get everything permitted as needed. Where the predicament feasibly may be resolved through some method other than a variance. I don't think there's any other positioning in the property that would support, a shed of that size to meet the applicant's need. So I don't really see any other way around this. Obviously the shed is already there. I don't think removing it or, demoing it is warranted in this case. So I don't really see any other predicaments to resolve the issue. Where the spirit and intent behind the requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting a variance. Again, with these difficult shaped and difficult elevation properties, it's also difficult to comply with all the ordinances here. But I think the applicant has tried to tuck it back there along the side of the house. So I don't have a concern with that. So I do think we'd be granting solid justice to the applicant by granting the variance. Again, just my thoughts. Rick or Ryan, any other thoughts on those factors?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Ryan Midday. The Great Shed location is reasonable considering the challenges, but it's not, it's not fire rated, and it's 5 feet from the house. That's a concern that I have.
Yeah, this is Rick Aiken, Mr. Chairman. I guess my question is for Christine. Is there any liability concerns if the zoning board and then the city council approve a shed less than 10 feet from the house that's not fire rated, and something were to happen to that shed that would cause destruction to the house?
This is Christine Tobin. I would think that the city may have exposure or may be subject to litigation. But in terms of answering that question with a positive legal response, I would need to review it further, not just off the top of my head. But there's a reason that's in the building code, of course. It's a safety concern, like you've all noted. And one thing that, I'm just getting off topic, but what I do want to suggest is if and when you make a motion on this, that you add language to identify, I can give you the exact language, but I would identify closer than 10 feet to the home in its existing location, which is approximately 5 feet from the home. I would add that so that we're not seeing something 1 foot from the home. Again, we're worried about the distance here, especially because of the non-fire rating.
Mr. Chairman, this is Building Commissioner Grassi. Could I comment? Would it be too out of lines and maybe enhance that with maybe some signage on there of no storage of flammable materials? Just throwing it out there because you did mention that there wasn't going to be any storage of any kind of gas-operated appliances or
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
This is Ricky. Mr. Grassi, I must have been on the same page because I was wondering if we would add into our motion that per not being, not storage of flammable or combustible materials in the barn onto our motion to help us alleviate some of the liability if we pass this. So I'll defer to Christine if that's appropriate or not.
This is Christine Tobin. I think that's an excellent idea to make it a condition of having the continued existence that there be no storage of such items.
This is Sal Filippelli. I don't mean to interrupt, but I would have no problems whatsoever signing any kind of document or contract whatsoever that would state something like that. I have no problem signing off on something that specifically says I would never put anything like that in there.
This is Ryan Midday. What about the issue of, he indicated that it's temporary. Do we need to make a note of that? Obviously, as a board, we always are thinking about, well, if the resident sells the home, what happens then?
Mr. Chairman, if I could comment on that, again, sorry to keep interrupting like this, but yeah, being that I think you should put language that it is temporary, being that he did mention that there is no foundation for the shed.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question? This is Christine Tobin.
Please.
Mr. Grassi, I was thinking the same thing. I'm looking at the foundation. I noticed that the applicant stated that he does not have a concrete base, but of course he can have other bases under the code, right? And another question I have for you, I don't know if you're able to answer it at this time, but is there a fire code which would prevent placing a non-fire rated shed too close to the building? And I'm wondering if that's why this code section exists. It parallels some type of fire code.
Christine, you're absolutely correct. This is Commissioner Grassi. I don't have that verbiage to quote the verbiage, but that's where that stems from. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So in that, Christine Tobin again. So in that event, the law department is not comfortable suggesting that, it would be a good idea for the board to consider that.
Okay. No,
Again, without further review, perhaps I'll leave it open for that, but without further facts or further information with regard to the fire rating issue and the fire department, the fire code.
Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. This is Chris Bruns. Yeah. No. You make an excellent point, and I have concerns along those same lines as well. Okay.
Mr. Bruns, this is Councilman Snitsky. Can I interject something?
Please, go ahead.
Christine, could we have him sign a waiver of liability on those issues that you're mentioning, the fire issues? Can we? Because he said he would not have a problem putting a no flammable material sign on the shed. Can we also have him sign a liability waiver of that if it caught fire, we're not at fault?
This is Christine Tobin again, Councilman Snitsky. That's an excellent point as well. When he was mentioning that, I was thinking of that kind of document myself. Again, we would take that under review to see whether something like that would be adequate or sufficient to cover that issue. And, in addition, if there is a fire code that does prevent that, I think that we would also be looking at a different issue and, some different questions in terms of, do we even want to do something like that? Is that even appropriate for safety issues? And one more comment, if I may. Mr. Midday had an excellent point, too, that perhaps there might be some conditional limitation considered by the board, that this permission, this variance would only last for as long as this applicant owns the property or something to that effect, whatever the board might consider would be appropriate. But again, I see that a couple of these issues require further research and review. That's our input.
Agreed. Okay. Any other thoughts on this variance request?
Mr. Chairman, just so I'm clear, so are we talking about tabling this so we can get the answers to these questions? Is that what we're considering here?
Yeah, I would support that. Yeah, I agree about the concerns around fire code, that we should have a better understanding of that. Sounds like we could have an issue with that as well, which obviously is in nobody's best interest. So I do think we need to have some input on that, or at least more understanding on if the applicant is violating fire code as well.
So the applicant now knowing that all this information, I'll just ask you, Sal, if going through all these hoops without possibility of us approving it or not, or the city council approving it or not, is it still worth your time, or would it be easier for you to move it 5 feet to the left? I know you said you got water issues, but 5 feet further away from your house to avoid a lot of these issues. Again, I'm just asking because we're talking about fire code and a lot of things that are understandable concern with this, and liability issues and so forth. So I'm just asking the question, Sal.
No, I mean, I have no problems moving it slightly. My only issue there is, like I said, the hill and the drainage. If it's possible to move it, I'd be more than happy to, because I do see where you guys are coming from, that, if there's a fire code, you're looking at other issues here. But, I don't have any problems trying to move it. I just don't know if I can get that full additional 5 feet. You know what I mean?
Right. So again, this is Rick Aiken, Mr. Chairman. I would suggest tabling it would be, in my opinion, would be appropriate to give the applicant time to figure out if he can and how far he could move it, especially if there's not a concrete foundation. I know you poured a little ramp up to the entranceway, but nothing significant that can't be moved. So give him time to do that. I'll give Sun Hills time to look into these fire issues and liability and legal forms and so forth. So it makes sense to me if we just table this and everyone do their due diligence and come back next month and see where we're at.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Very well stated. Ryan?
Ryan Midday, I agree.
Okay, great. Can I have a motion to a table, please?
I'll move to table.
And second?
I second.
Yeah, motion's been made to table this variance request. Terry, please call the roll.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Mr. Midday?
Yes.
Mr. Bruns?
Yes. Okay, yep, that request has been tabled until some additional information can be gathered. Okay, yep. Thanks, applicant, for your patience. Hope to speak to you again.
And Sal, if I could, before you leave, if you have any questions, please contact the city or Mr. Grassi. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to help you. Don't feel like you're in this alone. This is stuff that we're requesting from everyone, so don't hesitate to contact the city for if you have any questions on this, please.
No, I understand, and I appreciate that. Is it possible to have someone come out there and take a look, so they can at least? I know, it's kind of difficult sometimes to judge from the photos alone.
If you're referring, this is Building Commissioner Grassi. If you're referring to someone from our department, I would love to come out and take a look at that for you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That would be fantastic.
Thank you, Sal.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the final variance request of the evening. Okay. This is from a Tony and Christian Kacherkak. Sorry if I mispronounced that. They've requested a 2-foot variance request to ordinance number 113102A2, location and distance from property lines to allow the installation of an above-ground swimming pool to be 8 feet from the side yard lot line. Okay, so are the applicants on the phone?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay,
Hey,
yes, sir.
good evening.
You
Yes,
name and address, and then give us an overview of your variance request, please, sir.
it's 719, I'm Tony and Kristen Kacherchak, 7195 Laura Lee Lane, asking for a 2-foot variance for above ground pool. If you're looking at my house, I've talked to both neighbors on both sides and directly across the street. The one, if you're facing my house on the left, which would be the north side, He's perfectly fine with it. My neighbor on the opposite side is moving, so he really doesn't care. And then across the street, they had no issues as well. And it's not like the pool is going to be right up against the fence. It's still far enough out. It's going to be locked and follow all the other things I have to follow. I cannot move it back and over, because if you guys talked about all night, the ravine, fence goes up right against the tree, and if I were to take that down and move it over, it drops straight down from there. And then I have existing concrete patio, which I didn't put in when I bought the house 13 years ago. So right where I have it, it's pretty much the only place that I can put it. It's not affecting any utilities, any entrances, or anything for that matter.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Yes, Rick. Hey, Tony, hey, good to hear from you, and I miss you out the baseball fields.
I do as well.
Yes. And you want to talk about, you already have electric installed there, so moving it further away from the fence would be another code violation. Would make you have to rip up what's already installed electric-wise and reinstall. So do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yes, I followed all the proper protocol for being so far away, and the electric, and I had already had a separate breaker out there when I bought the house, so I ran everything on top of that. So if I were to move that, then I'd have to go into a variant on the electrical. I don't know about you guys, but I hate working with electricity, and I think with whatever's there, I think this is the best route for everybody. Thank you for that. Bring that up, Rick.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Yeah, and applicant, when you purchased the property 13 years ago, were you aware of some of the ordinances around pool placement?
Not for a pool, because I had a 2-year-old and a newborn on the way. So no, I didn't even think about swimming pools at that time.
Okay. Okay, great. Any final questions?
No.
Okay, good. I'd like to open it up to the public. Again, I'll repeat the number. If anybody would like to call in to speak on this variance, you are very welcome. You're welcome to do that. Phone number is 646-749-3122. Again, 646-749-3122. Access code 367-985-245. Again, access code 367-985-245. And we'll just pause a minute to allow anybody to call in. Chris Brunn speaking again. Has anybody called in to speak on this variance request? Okay, I will take that as a no. Okay, I'd like to read through some factors that we will consider. First of which, whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return, or whether there can be beneficial use of the property without the variance. I think he certainly has a nice usable backyard currently, so I think there's solid return in the current state. But I understand the applicant would like a pool in their backyard, so I think that definitely would enhance the usability of their backyard as well as their personal enjoyment of the property. So I think the property would be enhanced in this. The variance is substantial. Again, we talked about just a 2-foot variance needed here, so I don't consider that substantial at all. I think with some of the other factors at play, it's very, very reasonable. whether the character of the neighborhood will be altered. The pool is behind a fence in this circumstance, so I don't see any impact at all to the neighbors, nor substantial detriment caused. So that's not relevant in this case. If the variance would adversely affect delivery of governmental services, I don't really think that's relevant. I don't see an impact there at all. And the applicant did say that they already have electrical connectivity in the right location. So I think that's quite justified in this case. The property purchased with knowledge of the zoning restriction. The applicant did not know about the zoning restrictions around pool placement. Where the predicament feasibly may be resolved through some method other than a variance. I think we did discuss that, but certainly limitations, due to the current electrical placement, current patio placements, current deck, things of that nature. So I don't really see any other feasible solutions here that would have more value than I think granting the variance. Where the spirit and intent would be observed, I still think the applicant has done as good of a job as possible. Obviously, getting the pool in a reasonable placement, and again, we're only talking about a 2-foot variance request needed here. So I think we are upholding the spirit of the ordinances. Other board members, any other thoughts on those factors?
Mr. Chairman, this is Ryan Midday. I agree with your comment about no other feasible alternative way to go about this. I have an above-ground pool, so my opinion is that this is the only way the applicant had to pursue this. So I think it's reasonable, and I support it.
Mr. Chairman, this is Rick Aiken. Also, his neighbor will be closer to the pool. He has a pretty significant side yard as well. So it's not like I said, there are only 2 feet, so there's still going to be 8 feet between him and his property, and there's probably another 15 to 20 feet to his neighbor. So I don't see this as an issue with the neighbor who didn't comment anyway, one way or the other. And it's not going to, you won't even see it from the road because of the way this is with the fence and the way his yard slopes. So. And I got plenty of pools in our neighborhood. I live in the same area. There are plenty of above-ground pools, and it's part of the character of where we live. So, I don't see any issues with this.
Okay, great. Agreed. Okay, then may I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Rick.
I move that the board vote whether or not to grant the applicant and property owners, Tony and Christine, Churchek, I apologize, Tony. Soda 195, Laura Lee Lane, a 2-foot variance to ordinance number 1131-02A2, location and distance from property lines to allow for the placement of an above-ground swimming pool to be 8 feet from the side yard lot line as shown on the drawing submitted with the application.
And a second, please.
A second.
Okay, great. Votes shall be taken on the following. So the applicants, Tony and Christian Kachurchak.
Kachurchak.
Yes, that's how it's pronounced, sir. Thank you. 7195 Orley Lane, granted a 2-foot variance to ordinance number 1131.02A2, location and distance property lines to allow the placement of an above-ground swimming pool to be 8 feet from the side yard lot line as showed on the drawing submitted with the application. Yes vote is to grant the variance, and a no is to deny the variance. Terry, please call the roll.
Mr. Midday?
Yes.
Mr. Bruns?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes, that variance has been granted by the zoning board. And we'll move on to City Council for approval. Okay, that will conclude the new business portion of the meeting tonight. So we can move on to our communications section.
Thank you, Tony. You can leave if you want.
Thank you. Good talking to you, Rick.
Same to you.
Okay, great. Okay, so our next meeting, Terry, can you refresh when our next meeting is scheduled for?
The next meeting is October 14th.
Okay, October 14th. Okay, so I think it's certainly quite possible that some of the variances will come before the board again during that meeting. Were there any other variance requests outside of the ones that we've heard for that next meeting?
Yes, we already received one for 6218 St. Joseph Drive. It's a variance to 1106.02, which is a replacement driveway extension that will encroach 4 feet into the required 5 feet minimum distance from the south side lot line.
Okay, great, thank you. Good. Any other?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Grassi. Yeah, I would like to add to that too, that there's the possibility that Omni Vitalia was going to be submitting for variances for their sign package. So the possibility that would be submitted too for the next meeting.
Okay, understood. Very good. Good.
This is Councilman Snitsky. Can I have the floor?
Yes, please, sir. Go ahead.
Erie Bank on Rockside Road is putting in a brand new freestanding structure in the business district there on Rockside Road near 4141. They went to the Planning Commission on the 9th, last Wednesday, so they should, I would imagine, if there's any variances needed, that they would be coming to the zoning meeting on the, what day was it, the 14th. I would expect to see something from Erie Bank too. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, good. Any other communications?
No, there is not.
Yeah, Terry, I had seen that a potential applicant to the board or a potential appointee had been brought forth.
Yes, we did. It was Mr. Dave Stefanini. He was a fireman.
Okay.
Now, it went up for appointment at Tuesday, but I'm not sure if he was appointed or not. Carol, the council clerk, was not in tonight or today to verify whether he was or not.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll wait for that information. But okay, great. We are always looking to add another zoning board member to bring us to 5 members. Excellent. Good. Any other old business to address? Okay. Or any comments?
Yeah, I'd like to comment. This is the Commissioner Grassi again. Yeah, I was at that meeting, and yes, he was appointed. Mm-hmm.
Great.
Thank you.
So you're welcome, man.
I suspect he could have been helpful on our fire code discussion earlier, but okay. Well, we will look to obviously have him. Yeah, because he in theory should be joining at the next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, he should be.
Okay, wonderful. Great. Well, I'm anxious for him to join. Great. Good. Any other comments? Okay. Well, thanks everyone for your patience tonight. Good. And may I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn the meeting. This is Rick Aiken.
Good. And a second, please.
A second.
Good. Yeah, motion's been made to adjourn. Terry, please call the roll.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Mr. Madej?
Yes.
Mr. Bruns?
Yes. Okay. Meeting stands adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice night.